Gotcha.
So we'll get rolling since we're talking about that. A couple guys are running a little late, so we'll let them catch up. Basically what I've been posting is just some pictures and stuff of some of the, obviously, the bodybuilders that have passed. And the main one that we wanted to look at was Dallas McCarver. And you know, like we've talked before on this show, this is all about education. You know, I'm sorry, some people, you know, I've already got a couple comments about, you know, let them lay and, you know, leave them at peace, but that's not what this is about. This is especially with the season about to start. Some of these bodybuilders push themselves to the limit. You know, we want everybody to stay healthy. We don't want to have another, and we're going to see another Dallas McCarver incident. Right. So that's what this is about. Just keeping everybody healthy, keeping them informed. So.
Well, it's education. And again, that's what's scary, or that's why we do this, is like this guy was at the top of the game.
Yeah.
So you have to understand, this guy could have and should have been surrounded by the best people. You understand what I'm saying? Giving him the best advice. So what happens to these amateurs way down the pipeline that think they can get to this level? Wow. What are they doing? Are they following him as a role model? You know, that's what you're right, Jason. It is. It's not it has nothing to do with him. This is education, because you can see what happens, you know, and that is what's scary. You know, this guy was on the Olympia stage, was on, you know, the Arnold stage. What about the guy doing the regular show, you know, and saying, well, I'm going to do that, and has no idea what's going on, you know? So
now he was, how old was Dallas? What's it say on this?
26.
He was 26. He died August 22nd, 2017.
Yes.
That was down in Boca, I think, somewhere down there. So where did he, before he died, what show was it? Ryan, you might know, where he passed out on stage.
I believe that was the Arnold Classic in Australia or New Zealand.
Do you know how long before he died that was?
I think that was the year prior, the competitive year prior.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so.
Right. That's the only thing I remember, and I'm just wondering if that was kind of the kickoff of some of the stuff that's on this autopsy. Stock, whatever you want to start with. I have the toxicology pulled up. Whatever you want to start with.
Okay. I mean, if you just kind of look at some of the going down the list, I mean, at date of death, time of death, I mean, the gentleman was 6 foot, 344 pounds.
Wow.
Oh, that's big. Oh, that's big. That's really big.
Yeah.
Big boy.
Yeah. You know, and 6 foot's not the tallest guy in the world to hold 344 pounds.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine me holding that much weight.
I mean, yeah, you know, Jesus, it's crazy. I'm just going to run down a couple things so people kind of get an idea. Again, this has nothing to do with negatively against him. It's all about education.
Right.
So first of all, he had massive cardiomegaly or an enlarged heart. Average heart for a man, call it between 450 to 550 grams. His heart was 833 grams.
Wow.
You know, and what I want everybody to understand with this is you have to appreciate this gentleman was only 26 years old.
Right.
So again, we can talk regardless of what he was on. That's irrelevant to the point. But whatever he was doing, you got to remember, this was all done in a short period of time. Okay. Because he didn't do this. He didn't start when he was 14 or 16. I mean, I don't think he did, you know, using whatever substance he was using. So he didn't have like a 10-year career in this. You figure what, on the average, maybe 18 seems to be pushing it. Probably 2021 is when you're really, you know, kind of being exposed to everything of him. So you're talking maybe a 4 to 6 year period.
He turned pro at 20 years of age.
Okay.
So that goes to tell you that he may have started about 16.
17, yeah. So
I know Dallas was an athlete prior.
Okay.
So him having most athletes do already have slightly enlarged heart.
Yes, absolutely.
Like what would the average like enlarged heart from an athlete or your average bodybuilder look like in weight wise, grams wise?
I would say somewhere in the mid 5s, maybe low 6s.
Gotcha.
Give or take, you know, give or take. Because you start talking, you know, again, you basically look at his per se, you're talking about 300 grams, which is almost 1.5 times the size of the heart. You know what I'm saying? That's large. You know, and then Phil, you're right. I'm not really versed of when he turned pro and all that, but even at a younger age, still to me, it's crazy that you're looking within a 10-year period, truly at the end of the day, the destruction of the human body. Because at the end of the day, he had cardiomegaly, so his heart was at least 1.5 times the size. What's really crazy is, so everybody knows it as the widowmaker. So his left anterior descending artery, which basically supplies all the left side of the heart, a big fraction of the heart, that was 70% blocked. 70% blockage at 26 years old.
Wow.
His right coronary artery, which supplies the right side of the heart and then takes a dip and supplies the posterior aspect of the heart, that was 50% blocked. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking a portion of the right and pretty much all the left, and some of the back was at a minimum of 50% blocked. Again, at 26 years old. You follow me? So he had what's called concentric, so just like a concentric circle. So he had concentric left ventricular hypertrophy, which we've talked about over and over on the show. So again, 344 pounds, blood probably very thick, chemical substances, what have you in there, not being monitored. Now you're starting to put the wheels in motion for they start to fall off. Okay. So now talk about it from a cardiovascular perspective. Look at his lungs working harder. Average lung, 235 grams plus or minus 40. His were 617 and 619 respectively. So almost 3 times, 2.5 times the size. So the cardiopulmonary system's working poorly. Remember, the blood pressure in the, your typical blood pressure, let's just say 140/80 out in the outside. Inside the lungs, it's about 25/10. So it's a very low pressure system. So you see that the amount of weight, fluid, everything that's going on is putting huge compensation onto the lungs. The lungs are almost 2.5 times. There you go on that. Another one, liver. So how many times I tell you about this, Jason? Make sure you take your milk thistle. Do something all the time. Your liver is your detoxification center. Average liver, 1,400 to 1,500 grams. His, 4,593.
Jesus.
4,593. Then his kidneys were enlarged, and then he had hardening or sclerosis of the nephron, and the nephron and the kidneys are the working unit of the kidneys. Each kidney has about 1 to 2 million nephrons, but he had sclerosing or hardening of the functioning unit of the kidneys. Those were both enlarged. And then what was really pretty crazy was he had thyroid cancer. He had papillary thyroid carcinoma. So I don't think he knew that, now that can be, that there's many reasons that potentially could have caused that. I'm not going to say that, using thyroid medication is the 100% cause, but if he did, that doesn't help the system. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, so he had underlying papillary thyroid carcinoma. So, I mean, pretty, in my opinion, from a medical side, right? This is a severe amount of damage for a 26-year-old.
Yeah. Now, Doc, do you think what has caused those organs to be that size? Is growth hormone would do that? Or?
Yes. Yeah, it has to be. And then the body trying to compensate for the size. The average human being isn't meant to be even 6 foot. It's not meant to be 344 pounds. And you got I've talked to you guys as well. It's funny. It's kind of, all of us train, work out hard, and sometimes we get our blood work and vital signs done, and they're not the best. But you get some person who's 330 pounds and doesn't work on them. You just be blunt, fat and lazy, but yet the blood pressure is 110/60 and they're normal. The body tends to compensate for laziness. But what I mean by that, but at 6 foot, 344 pounds and massive optimal conditioning, it can't compensate if you're not taking care of it. It doesn't know what to do. You follow me? It's basically crazy. And like I said, you add, and again, I don't know, again, I can only go by what's in the toxicology, and then you can go by what reports say, and that's speculation. But if doing insulin, doing growth hormone, IGF-1, you're, again, it's IGF-1 or growth hormone, insulin pushing stuff in the cells is not cell specific. It's systemic. So if I'm making more cells, then I'm making more cells throughout the body. So that can be organ, muscle, as much as it is muscle, it's also organ. So there you go. But it shows you, you're looking at major organs that keep you alive. You're looking at 1.5 to 3.5 times the normal size of a human being.
Wow.
Do you guys remember when he died? There was a rumor or something about how he had eaten, and he took some insulin and he had eaten and then he had choked or something like that. Do you see any indications to that, Doc?
I've heard it. I never read it officially.
Is there anything in here there's nothing in here that says that, right? That there's
no, I didn't.
food lodged in
have to be. It's hard to tell when you do the autopsy. You got to look at. So it's very hard to tell if somebody took insulin, because there's a certain test called you look for what's called a C-peptide, which is the chain before you make the insulin. And so if there's no C-peptide, that means the body isn't making it. It means it's synthetically in there. And I didn't see that test, so I can't, but I have seen I actually had a young kid. This was before I got into medicine. He was like 23 years old and he ended up killing himself on insulin. That's why when my athletes ask me, I'm like, I really, really, really strongly recommend you don't do it. Because again, the average person doesn't know what to do if a crisis. I mean, don't get me wrong, insulin is probably the most anabolic hormone in the body. It's phenomenal, but it's literally can kill you instantaneously before you even can catch wind of it. So if you're single and by yourself and you're sleeping, and you can wake up on the other side and quickly, very quickly.
Yeah.
So
it's like these guys that do heroin. That fentanyl is a great high, but do a little bit too much and
like,
you're done.
That was too much. Yeah, that's to say, a little bit of insulin, outstanding. A little bit too much insulin, it's over. And there ain't no coming back, and I've seen it. I've seen it in the hospital and you've seen it in this regular life, and that's scary, man. I mean, it's scary.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Hey, John, how's it going?
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Good,
How you doing,
good.
John?
What's up, guys? Phil, Ryan.
Yeah. Obviously, we're talking about Dallas. He's going over his laptop. Did you know Dallas? Did you ever meet him? Talk to him?
I met him a couple times at contests. I really didn't know him though.
Yeah. They said he was. I never met him. I heard he was a really, really good guy.
Yeah, nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
I saw him guest pose in Florida, and man, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, and Jason, like I told you, one of the things that we do also, you see that his aorta, which is the main artery from the heart, was completely thickened. And so I guarantee you, like one of the tests that I run in my office, and when I check people's blood pressure, I also check what's called their central blood pressure. So your central blood pressure is the pressure of the blood coming right immediately into the aorta. So it lets you determine if the aorta is stiff or if it has compliance and elasticity, which means the ability to expand and then snap back. That's what you want. If you lose compliance, you don't have that expansion and there's no snapping back. So what you have is everything works downstream. The cardiovascular system's physics. So, you have your main arteries, your smaller arteries, and you go to your capillaries. Well, your capillaries are that's where the magic happens. That's where your gas exchange happens, but they're very tiny, they're microscopic. But they're the first ones that are going to pick up when there's pressure changes because they're going to blow out. So what do? They begin to remodel themselves. They make themselves thicker. They get thicker, then the small arteries get thicker, the big arteries get thicker, then the aorta gets thicker. So now when blood is pumped down through this entire system from C1 arteries, which are big, to C2 arteries, which are smaller, the speed is so quick, and then the snapping back of the blood from the bottom to the top comes back quickly. So during diastole, when the blood should be the heart should be filling up and then beating out at systole, it's still getting blood. It's doing two things at one time. It's catching blood, beating out at the same time, because by the time it beats some of the blood out, they've already got more coming back because the pressure gradient is so high. And just like anything else, anything with high pressure is going to do what? Start to form a thicker wall. And like I said, if that would have, again, you've been with me, Jason, we've talked about it, and you're as a patient of mine. Every single one of these things, from at least from a cardiac perspective, could have, in my opinion, and should have been detected. And this could have all been done with testing that would have maybe cost less out of pocket, less than $1,000.
If he was your patient and he came in like this, well, obviously, but if he had not died, what would you have done? What would you have said to him?
He would have had the asshole talk.
Yeah.
It's enough. We got to stop what we're doing. I tell people, now that I have graduated and completed my fellow in cardiology as well, I said I'm a grumpy old man when it comes to the heart, and I really could care two damns how upset you are with me or if you yell at me, because if you do, then you're still alive, and that's outstanding, and I'm doing my job. And I would have told him, look, we've got to get a hold on this. This is bad. And depending on where he was, I'd say you're probably going to die within the next 5 years if we don't fix this now.
Now, if he was to take a rest and take a break from everything, do you think his body could have recovered from this, or was he kind of at a point of no return?
I think at this point he was, I think maybe 6 months to a year prior, start maybe working on this. Yes. Getting some of the liver is really resilient. It'll start to fix itself. Stop beating it up. Same with the lungs. Same now the kidney sclerosis, you're stuck with that. The heart size, we probably would have had heart issues down the road long-term anyways, but could have made it better. He was just compounding it. Nothing he was doing is making it better. Think about if he was 100 pounds lighter, how much easier would that whole cardiovascular pulmonary system work? It's under duress, and that's what's scary,
Yeah. Now, August of 17, what would he have been getting ready for? When was Olympia back then? I know it's all over the place now.
Probably September.
Yeah.
Okay, so was he qualified for Olympia that year?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know. I can pull up his, or what show had he just done? I wonder if he had done any.
Did he do the Arnold that year?
Was it the prior year that he did that?
Is that the one he passed out?
He did something
I think
earlier.
that was overseas. That wasn't the one in Columbus, I don't think. I think that was the one overseas.
New Zealand or Australia?
Yeah,
right?
Australia. I think Australia.
Let's see if I've got his record of what he did here. It's not showing it on that one.
Can you pull up muscle memory, Jason?
Yeah, let me jump in there in a second. I have 2000. You said muscle memory?
Yeah. Just go to the year, and then you can click on his name, and it'll show you all the shows he did that year.
While you're looking that up, let me just mention something else. When you were looking at the aorta, there's some terms in there called lipid-laden macrophages. So remember, a macrophage is an immune cell, okay? And when those are stimulated, you're going to cause an immune reaction within the body. One of the biggest things also with him is something that we've talked about on the show from a GI perspective, but just in general, inflammation. He was wildly inflamed. Remember, cholesterol in the body, I've said this before, we'll repeat it, is a wonderful thing. It does beautiful things, protects your cells, your heart, your brain, makes hormones, conducts electricity. It's a beautiful thing in a beautiful system. In a bad system, it does bad things. Basically turns into these lipid-laden macrophages, which is called a foam cell, which plugs up the holes in the tubes and pipes or the arteries. The bad cholesterol, the LDL, is fuel for every single cell in your body, okay? Every cell uses LDL cholesterol for food. But when you become inflamed, the molecular structure begins to change into these lipid-laden macrophages. They begin to rust or oxidize. Rusted LDL or oxidized LDL, which is a test we can check for in a lab, stick to the macrophage, stimulate the macrophage, and now you have an immune reaction and an inflammatory response in the cardiovascular system. That is where your heart disease comes from. Like we've said, very rarely independently is the heart the issue. It's the vascular system. And there's three, like I said, there's three finite responses to an infinite amount of insults, and that's oxidative stress, inflammation, and immune dysregulation. He's the perfect triad of everything that went on there. You see what I'm saying? Everything, he faced everything that I've ever talked about on shows, learned when I was studying cardiology. This is it. This is the, here, you know, here's your cliff notes right here. This is exactly, if you were to see it, this is the person on what I learned in school.
I know it. And I know we talked about this before we start recording. For you to call, you called me at 6 o'clock in the morning. Your first words out of your mouth was "Holy shit" when I sent you that autopsy.
Like compared to the last one, you know, Pearson that we did wasn't
George.
that bad. This one, like, this is bad.
No. So 2017, he took second at the Arnold, and he took second at the New Zealand Pro.
Wow.
So
he would have been I think top 3, right? Top 3 qualifies for the Olympia.
Yeah. He actually finished behind Brandon Curry at the New Zealand.
Wow.
And
Who won the Arnold that year?
I think that's the year that Cedric won. Yeah, Cedric McMillan won.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Cedric won. He got second to Cedric.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So if he did these two shows,
he would have qualified.
Yeah. Then he, you know, if he was getting ready for the Olympic, I mean, again, same difference now. The toxicology doesn't show a lot of different drugs, but throughout the year, we know he did a lot of, we would have speculate that he did quite a amount of drugs. If you just did 2 shows, placed pretty well, you know, you can pretty much make that, you know, educated guess the fact that he was probably geared pretty well. You follow me?
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
the death, the passing of him came at a transition time. Either he was going to ramp up to get ready, you know, if he was going to do the Olympia per se, you know, that was getting ramp up time. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter because it was over before it ever got started.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Anyways, you guys got anything else on Dallas?
Did that autopsy just come out?
No. It's been out for a little while, but we went over George's last time we had the doc on.
Yeah.
And we had talked about kind of doing a couple shows here and there with some of these autopsies from some of these guys. So I got Piana's here. I reached out. I tried to get a couple of the other guys, but I didn't have any luck. I'm still working on them. I tried to get Nasser's. That's in Egypt, and I'll say Egypt's not very nice.
Right.
I sent him an email. I don't read hieroglyphics. I think that's what they sent it back to me.
Wow.
But I kind of took it as a no.
Yeah.
So that didn't work. So we can hit on
Like,
go ahead, Doc.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, you know, kind of wrapping him up, you know, if you look at the toxicology, he had THC, he had trenbolone, and he had testosterone in the system. I mean,
so nothing crazy.
None of that terribly bad. But we were talking about before we started with a little bit on the testosterone, the epitestosterone. Again, you know, that's where the Olympics and stuff come into play, because there are individuals in this world who have very high testosterone levels naturally. And that will always show up perfectly in a testosterone to epitestosterone ratio, because that ratio needs to be within a certain range, knowing if that's legitimate or synthetic. The normal range of a testosterone to epitestosterone is going to be anywhere from less than 4 to 6. McCarver's was at 130. So basically shows you the testosterone that was in his system was not his testosterone. That's 100% synthetically charged. And you want it less than 4 or less than 6, and you're at 130. That ratio shows complete synthetic, you know, nothing natural there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It didn't say anything about his prostate, did it? His prostate was okay?
No, his prostate was normal. It
Really?
wasn't enlarged. It was soft. Like I said, pretty much everything else. I mean, brain was fine. There was anything wrong there. Like I said, it just heart, heart, lungs,
Liver,
kidneys, and liver. And again, well, those are pretty important for life. I mean, it's pretty much your quad, your pretty much every one of those take a large amount of the cardiac output. The only one you're missing there is the brain, but you just took away your whole vascular pulmonary system, your detoxification system and your filtration system pretty much took a complete dump,
Yeah.
And it's sad. Was it worth it? I don't know. That's only for someone else to answer, but it's, I don't know. Like we talked about before too. I just don't think any of us ever walked into the gym day one to say, man, this is going to be great. I can't wait to become unhealthy. You know what I'm saying? And I think somewhere, somehow we lose, we do this to become healthy, but then again, competition athletes, I was a professional athlete. I get it. But man, it just shows you that, what always makes me mad, and Jason knows this, is like these guys and you guys out there, you spend all this money on supplements and drugs and clothes and memberships and trainers, but Jesus Christ, you spend nothing to see what it's doing to your body. And
Yeah.
Jason knows this. What's your grand total for a year to see me? Like $400.
Cheap.
And I talk to him 4 times a year. Jesus Christ, you don't have $400 a year to have somebody say, let's back that down a little bit. Maybe we should watch this. Or nope, you're doing okay, but I want you to do this instead. And you got great coaches out there, like Ryan and that, who get a hold of me and say, this is my athlete, please check them out before I start prepping them. See, that's responsibility, not just here, let me give you your money, I'll get you ready for a show. And then I'll give to you and do to you what I do to everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of respect for individuals like Ryan, because again, you care about your clientele, and they know they can send it to me and I'll shoot them straight from the hip. But I'm Jesus Christ, $400. They pay more than that in probably a week of and I know they pay more than that in a week of groceries. But it just doesn't make sense to me. And that's why I really forced this as I got out of school and opened this practice, is you guys have this voice now. So if you don't use it, then that's on you. You have no one to blame but yourself.
Absolutely.
I was trying to pull up. I don't know if you saw that post I did about Generation Iron, where they were talking about maybe having some of the athletes get medically cleared before they do the Olympia.
Yeah, didn't Jake Wood do an interview?
I didn't see the interview. Did you see it?
I didn't watch it, but I seen the article.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's
going to be a tough one, because you also, what have we said before? You get some people who say, I don't want to find out what's wrong with me, which is they got to be the most asinine statement I've ever heard, because you don't have to find out what's wrong with you, because one day you're going to find out. I mean, but I think that's going to be hard. I think you could lose a lot of people in your bigger shows, that say, well, I'm not doing this because I'm not going to have somebody tell me that I'm not in good enough health to do this competition. I've just trained all year and I have sponsors. There's a lot of, this is the sport, a lot of politics that are involved that it's a great idea, but I just don't know how much traction it can really going to gain amongst the community and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Be a tough one.
And knowing the situation for what it is, what type of markers would they look for? And I mean, because every 99% of people on that stage are going to have elevations in
something.
The markers are going to be elevated regardless. So what would be the number where they say, okay, this is no good?
Yeah. And like you said, you make a perfect point there. If you're trying to, again, they don't want to, again, bodybuilding doesn't want to come out and say we condone the use of anything. Obviously, that makes everything look bad. I get that. I tell my athletes, I don't condone the use, but here we go. But my point is, like you said, Ryan, so we know that if people are using substances to get ready for a show, there is going to be an elevation. So now we almost look like it's a double-edged sword, and you look like, you're speaking out of both ends of your mouth. So what's a good, safe level to be on drugs? Your liver enzymes are high, which are not good to begin with, but we'll let you be this high because we deem this to be safe enough. That's just sketchy all the way around. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't sound good. And I don't think you're going to get that to stick, because, testosterone's high. Well, how high is too high? Right. Well, it's all going to end up being subjective. There's nothing objective, Yeah. Yeah. Because I've never got anybody post-show whose labs were like, wow, this is beautiful. You look fantastic. It's not. Where do you go? What's what's hemoglobin and hematocrit? What's blood thickness going to be? Well, you know, shouldn't be more than 18, but since you're doing the show, we'll let it go to 20. Well, it's, you know, that, like I said, that just sounds bad. You're just going to cause bad press, and the press will eat that up, and the general public will completely just shit can the sport after that.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting to see, you know, how they go with that. And like I said, what are they going to make the levels, the markers?
Exactly.
So,
Well, the rumor is, and Ryan, you and I talked about this, is that that's what Matt and Nick Walker's issue was. What their falling out was something to do with his blood work or something like that. And I haven't been able to verify that, but that's the rumor.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah.
it seems there. I know Nick came out and made a statement that, you know, him and Matt were working things out, but I guess he put out a new video. I just seen this past week where he's no longer with Raw and looking for a sponsor.
Yeah, I don't think he's with them, dude, because I've been seeing him with Redcon, and apparently Redcon turned him down too.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Fuad just recorded a show tonight. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but they were talking. They had Nick on there, and they were asked, like, the whole subject was, "What's he going to do next?"
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that.
Yeah.
You just released one too, John. Not to get off track here for a second. Mike Mentzer, right?
Yeah, that was an interview I did with John Little last year, and John Little was an author who wrote quite a few books about Mike Mentzer, and he was a friend of his. And I think we recorded the interview last June, which was the 20th anniversary of Mike's death, because he passed away in 2001.
Okay.
So I just had a chance to put the video up on YouTube. We had the podcast up last June, but I put the video part of it on YouTube.
Okay.
Because when I put those videos up, I put a lot of pictures and a lot of editing, so it takes a while to do it. So
yeah, it does. That it does. Okay. So let's talk about Rich for quick. I mean, I know his autopsy wasn't as in depth.
No, but go ahead.
The thing about Rich is, you know, and I'll say this too, because I've had a couple of comments about him. I guess somebody just did a video on him saying that he was, and we'll talk about this, Doc, about him being full of silicone or something like that. But, and then all the drugs and stuff he did. But I followed Rich. He kind of got me started in the whole podcast thing and YouTube and all that. And I don't know about y'all, but I think he kind of kicked off. He kind of brought bodybuilding to life on YouTube, I think.
Oh yeah.
Very popular guy, very knowledgeable guy, very smart. Obviously some of the stuff he was doing behind closed doors, that's between him and his maker. But
I think he also kind of was the one who kind of pioneered the talk about steroids. I mean, openly talking about steroids, because before that, nobody was really openly talking about it.
Right.
But when he started coming out and he was being, you know, I think he got a lot of fans for being honest and open. And then after that, I think it was like everybody was open about it. You know, everybody will talk about their cycles and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when he posted his cycle, remember he put that on his Instagram or something like that. And that thing was crazy. But it was funny. I remember the last couple interviews before he died, he kind of was dialing back. He was he was backing off. He wasn't taking this anymore. He wanted to get his weight down. And I think he was starting to have some liver issues and stuff like that, which the doc's going to talk about.
Yeah.
And which was amazing. And then when the doc called me, he's like, you know, what did he weigh? 220?
221.
He was only 221 pounds when he died.
Wow. And I can recall him saying that that's the weight that he was wanting to get down to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of his old videos. That's what he was talking about, wanting to have a lower body weight.
And he only died 3 days from Dallas.
Wow.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I remember they were close together. I remember when that happened.
Yeah. August 25th, he died.
I saw him 3 months before he died in Go's Gym. Me and my wife were leaving, and I looked over to my left and I saw him, and I went, holy shit, the guy was huge. And I went, oh, and I knew who he was when I saw him, and I didn't speak with him. He was training, but I just got a good look at him. And he looked, I don't know how much he would have weighed at that point. How tall was he?
6'2".
Oh, he was probably, he was huge. So he would have been 275, 280, maybe plus. I have no idea. But I just remember seeing him, and 3 months later, I think he died.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely came down on the weight, that's for sure.
Wow.
Now, what's the kind of the Reader's Digest version on him, Doc?
So same difference. So I guess, I mean, again, you guys fill me in. He ended up going to the hospital because he passed out and hit his head.
Correct.
Right.
That's basically what it is. He didn't. So now again, that's what caused it. That I have no idea. Speculation. People said, recreational drugs and like you said, outside stuff or whatever he was doing. We don't know the rationale of why he passed out. You know what I'm saying? That there's no definitive answer. The autopsy that we had privy to it didn't have a toxicology report, so we didn't have stuff like that. So anyways, what it looks like, then we'll just say he passed out for some reason, hit his head, because when he got at the hospital, he was in obviously ICU and probably pretty critical condition, because he had a peg tube, which is basically a tube going into your stomach to feed you. He had a trach, so breathing for him. Then he had a urinary catheter, a rectal tube. So he was in ICU. He was basically in an unconscious vegetative coma type state. Whether he was that way when he got there or they medically induced him, but it ended up being medically induced.
I think they medically induced him.
Yes, because you need to at that point shut the body, slow the body down. Ultimately, his demise is that he went septic, and so septic's basically nothing more than a systemic infection. But let's go to the fact of like tenfold, because he ended up with septic pneumonia. Because like we talked about from a lung perspective, his lungs were each over 1,000 grams. Remember, like I talked about on Walker, we're talking of not very big at all. Lung size being 617, about being 235 plus or minus 40 grams. Piana's lungs were 1,060 and 1,000 grams, respectively. So it shows you the amount of fluid that was in the lung, the pneumonia. Just the lungs were full of congestion, edema, which is swelling. There was necrosis or dead tissue, whole bunch of inflammatory cells, and then there was scattered or dispersed type of fat embolism. So basically fat clots within the lungs. The lungs were completely shot at that point in time. The lungs filled up with fluid. He went into sepsis, and that's what ultimately was his demise, cause of death. But you look at somebody like his liver, now you got to take in the fact that he was in the hospital, antibiotics, different things, but now his liver was over 3,000 grams. It was 3,160. The true ultrasound and looking at the liver and then putting hands on it, he did have liver congestion, and he did have fatty liver. He also had a lot of fluid in his abdomen, which is called ascites, which you see with liver failure. As well, his skin, so like the palms of his hands, the thin parts inside of the arms, and then the sclera, the whites of his eyes, everything was yellow. So he was, some type of jaundice. So that means that the liver's going bad because it's releasing the bilirubin, or the breakdown of the red blood cells. And like the brain showed swelling, necrosis, and ischemia. That obviously would have been from the fall. So spleen, again, from an infection. Now remember, spleen's kind of just like a big lymphatic or big garbage organ. Normal spleen's about 140 grams. His was 420. So his body was working to fight the infection. Ultimately his demise was, the hospital induced infection that just got a hold of him.
Yeah, you said he was close to liver failure.
Yeah, oh yeah, because he was. Once you start turning yellow, that's given out. And like his heart was 670 grams, so not terribly bad. And that's what when you and I were talking, Jason, that morning, is like Rich Piana was 46, 47 years old. We talk about McCarver, he's 26. He's 26, 20 years his junior. And you kind of put your appreciation, because like you said, Piana kind of brought to life more the in your face. And I still use his supplements to today because I thought he was very smart. And I recommend, it's funny, my cardiac patients are taking his, I'm not going to, his nitric oxide drink. The full is the bad name, but I have 80-year-old people drinking it because it's a fantastic product for the heart. and they get a kick out of it because they have to tell their friends that they have to go to 5% Nutrition and
Mhm.
buy his products.
Mhm.
You know, he was really smart. So what I'm getting at is the larger than life person, and like Phil, you saw him, he's huge, but then
Yeah.
you look at when he died, you look at some of his organ size, not relatively bad to the 26-year-old. The 26-year-old was way worse than him.
Mhm.
You know, that's what I'm going back on McCarver and saying that's scary. You know,
Yeah.
but Piana wasn't that, you know, not that bad off for whatever, but anybody wants to say about him.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the rumors now. What's this? Do you see any indication of being injected with silicone, having silicone in his body?
It did not in the autopsy. It didn't show
Yeah.
anything like foreign substance within the muscle cells or the fatty tissue or anything like that.
Now I know I asked you about this before we started recording, and maybe Phil. Have you guys ever heard of bodybuilders doing that?
Synthol?
No, silicone.
Not silicone, synthol, of course. And
Synthol. We've all heard of synthol, but
Yeah.
this, according to this person that knows exactly how Rich died, was that he had silicone and completely out throughout his body.
wow, no.
Again, you got to remember that if you're in, I mean, again, you know, we do silicone implants and stuff, but that's within a back, you know, it's a whole different type of system. But shooting silicone is not a natural substance in the body. I would just see where there would be a lot of issues, either from necrosis or dying tissue, embolism, which is a traveling clot. I'm sorry. I find that hard to believe from a functionality. I mean, he was big, larger than life, but he wasn't like absurd looking, like the people we've seen who shoot synthol do it wrong and it looks like just look goofy. You know what I'm saying? He didn't. He's just a big man. He looked pretty damn good to me, just real big. So to say he was injecting or putting silicone in his body, I mean, maybe, but I'm going to go high speculation, not.
Right.
Well, didn't Piana say that he was using PPMA or something from Mexico?
Is that with the little beads or something like that?
Beads that you inject into the muscle, right, Doc? Are you familiar with that? It's big in
Yeah.
Brazil. I believe he would go to Brazil occasionally and he would get those injections of the PM
for his arms?
I think I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you're right, John. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I think after he passed away, his girlfriend was saying, or his ex-girlfriend was saying that he was doing that she saw him do that.
Wow.
Because his arms weren't. It was more than just steroids. It was, they were obscenely big. You know.
Yeah.
I used to see him at Powerhouse because he was training at Powerhouse for the last couple of years. He moved from California to Tampa.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, he was there.
And he never trained heavy. Never. I mean, he would do dumbbell curls with like 20 pounds.
Oh.
And he would never train unless somebody was filming him. It was always for his YouTube channel. And I had a friend that was at an expo with him, and he was with Branch Warren, and he said, "Hey, Rich, you want to go train with us?" And he's like, "Oh no, I don't train like that anymore." You know, so he never trained heavy.
No.
Yeah. So then I was just I've seen him do it. So it's basically just shooting filler. You know, so if that's what they want to say, silicone, and I guess because filler's not silicone, you know what I'm saying? It's hyaluronic it's hyaluronic acid, you know what I'm saying? And the body would break that. Not saying I condone that at all, but the body's gonna, I inject fillers in females in their lips, you know what I'm saying? The body will absorb the hyaluronic acid, you know what I'm saying? So that's something that the body knows what to do, uses it, and it's a natural substance in the body. So if they want to say he was shooting silicone, no, if he was doing filler, yes. So, but that's where I could see where that may come out, you know, as he was doing silicone per se, you know.
Yeah.
Now, what is the side effects of synthol, Doc? What?
To me, it just you're shooting a medium chain triglyceride in large amounts in the muscle. Again, it's oil. At the end of the day, it's oil. I mean, so you keep doing it over and over and over. You get that into the muscle, you get that into the cell. You slow down circulation. You can get abscess, get necrosis, shut down blood supply. I mean, it can turn out bad if you're not careful what you're doing. Because I mean, again, if I'm not mistaken, I never used it, but back in the day, I mean, there was a lot. They had, specific ways you did it. And you're talking shooting a substantial amount, like just say biceps, substantial amount of oil into your arms every day to get that initial look. And then you would taper it to kind of maintain. But holy shit, man, that was a lot of oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil, you never did that, did you?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No.
Mm-mm.
No.
I know JP. I think JP said he's tried it.
Well, didn't he say he got an infection from it or something? Like something had an incident that almost put him in.
I think so.
Put him in the hospital. I think it put him in the hospital before either the Olympia or the Arnold or something, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I said,
Milos almost died from it, right? Because it got
Yeah,
into
maybe-
his bloodstream and it
Yeah.
got into his lungs or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's Milos I'm thinking about. I think it was Milos.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but JP says we talked about it before, and JP said he had tried it in his shoulders or something like that, but he didn't like it.
Right.
Mhm.
no, just do your injection in your shoulder. That way you get the benefit effect. You get the medication and you get a little bit of the oil, so it'll fill your shoulder out. But Jesus, like I said, you're 20, 30, 40, 50 cc's of oil into you're asking for it. It's one of those things, you're asking for it. You're pushing it to the extreme. I think if you got to go that route, then maybe you need to start looking at something else to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about George. We talked about these guys. I was kind of hoping JP would be on, but he said he had somebody coming to his house. We could talk about Nasser a little. I know we did an episode on Nasser, but he basically, I'm sure he had a lot of issues too, because he was kind of one of those I think he was trying to stay in the game longer than he probably should have.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he was trying to make a comeback and stuff from what I had heard.
Now, how old was Nasser when he retired? Do you know?
I don't. John, you know?
Mm-mm.
Sure. I know Ian
I
and
don't even know when he stopped competing. I don't remember what year it was.
It's like early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I remember I met him one time. He was like 337 pounds. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Looked like a sumo wrestler. He really did. It was like, holy, this is off season. Like, Jesus Christ, man, that's big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge.
But at the end of the day, like I said, I think everybody's insight's fantastic, and like I said, I hope that people understand why you guys put this show on, and I'm grateful for you guys allow me to be on and talk. But it is education. It's not about bashing anybody.
No,
But
Right,
it's
right.
about educating people, and again, making sure you make right choices.
Yeah.
And knowing that you have access to have somebody help you make good choices. People need to start to take this serious. I mean, I like to come on here and talk about cool stuff, new stuff, fun stuff. What's new, what's dynamic, what's new science behind getting bigger, stronger, faster without having the, we've all done how many shows of this now? 4 or 5 shows in the past 6 months on death. I mean, Jesus, when are we going to begin to open our eyes and begin, if we're going to do this, then take care of your whole being. And now you have access to this stuff, and it's like, man, you got it. But I can only give it to the people. It's like the whole thing, you can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink. So you can't make excuses of not. I mean, I've sponsored enough shows. I've done enough podcasts. I've been on tour. I've spoke. And man, if it doesn't sink in, how many more people need to die before it starts to sink in and we start to kind of resolve this problem?
Yeah.
I wonder.
If we don't talk about this, what changes?
Nothing.
There you
Nothing
go.
changes. And it was the funniest thing. It's like one of my attending physicians when I was in school asked me a question one time. He's like, what's medicine? So I gave him this long drawn out answer that I thought he wanted. And he's like, no, it's what the last person did. He goes, I'm going to teach you. If you don't think for yourself, you're going to teach your students what I taught you, because that's what my attending taught. He goes, but the minute you stop, shift your paradigm of thought, you've changed the trajectory of medicine forever. So just like we talked about, like Piana, he changed the trajectory because everybody, and you guys all been in the sport long enough and athletes, and don't tell me that, when somebody says, oh, I don't do steroids. Okay, it's enough. That you're doing them. But what he said, he brought it to the light. He wasn't he said, yeah, I'm this big and this is why I'm this big. If you don't like it, then it's my choice. And you know what? People respected that. So what did he do? He changed the trajectory where people talked about it a little more open. Hey, I'm making supplements for the athlete who is on gear, who's looking to do this, not the, you know, the cookie cutter, steroids are bad, don't touch them. No, I don't do them, even though, you know, behind the scenes, you're loaded up on them. You follow me? And that's what I think we're hoping to do here is change. It's okay to go to, you know, if you can find one, but find a doctor who will take care of you. Do this the right way. Talk about it. Stop having the asinine thought process of, I don't want to know what's wrong with me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, that, you know, so I think we begin, that's what they said. If you talk, the more you talk, the more you make a change, you know, or at least plant the seeds to make the change.
Also think it's very, very important. What I really get from this is that no matter, youth has a tendency to feel invincible. So Dallas being only 26, I'm wondering if he had that mindset that, well, I'm so young, I'm healthy.
Of course.
You know, I mean, being 26, I mean, I remember, you know, when I was 26, I mean, I wasn't as conscious, of course, as I was later in my career. So I wonder if it's just that invincible feeling you have inside with youth thinking, oh, I have time. So
100%, because again, we're all, you know, I was a professional athlete when I was 21 and I played football like tomorrow was my, like that. I didn't have to worry about anything. So it was 100 miles an hour, fifth gear. And why I talk to you is because all you guys, is I lived through all these drugs and pills and alcohol and everything that needed to be done to get by the next day. I didn't care. It was all, hey, I had to be the best and was willing to do whatever. Didn't really look and say, am I making any deposits for the future? So no, it is an invincibility, especially when you get to a high level. You want more. It's just natural. But now we need to start to cultivate this and really get good coaches, doctors, just everybody around these athletes to kind of get them to not make dumb choices. You know what I'm saying? Start helping them to make proper choices.
Yep. So to just touch on Nasser real quick, he was 47 when he died. His last show was 2005 Europa Super Show.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He got 14th. Actually, his last 3 years, he never got a top 10 finish.
Yeah.
So, and then,
I think his best years were like 95 to 99.
Yeah, he won the Arnold Classic in 99.
97. I mean, there's still that stigma that, you know, he held over him that he should have won the Olympia.
Yeah.
I saw the 96 Olympia and he looked unbelievable.
Yeah, we were both there, John. I saw the 96 as well in person.
Yeah.
From the front and the side, you could have won the show.
Yeah. Dorian was a little downsized that year.
Yeah.
Are they bringing the Masters Olympia back? Did you see that?
Jake Woods has announced, correct?
Yeah.
Not this year, but next year.
2023.
Huh.
Cool.
That ought to be interesting.
Would be.
Phil, you going to get ready for it?
If they have an over 60, I'll think about it. I'll give that some thought.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep your progress going here.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
You think Dexter's going to come back and do it?
I don't think so. I think he's done.
He's done.
Yeah, I don't think so. Who was Lee Priest has been talking smack already, like he's going to do it.
He'll get suspended before they do it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Something will happen, I'm sure.
Right.
He'll say something.
Yeah. Who actually do you think would do it? Who comes to mind?
I don't know. What would it be, over 40 or over 50?
I don't know. I don't know. I would imagine
over 40. There could be a lot of guys doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of active pros still competing at, so
They should
I think
do
that's what too.
over
You know, you
50.
kind of got to make this Masters thing like a true tight match. You know, because what happens in the 40, again, science and technology is getting better. I mean, Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl at 44. You know what I'm saying? So, you know,
40's not old anymore.
Before, you know, I mean, before you could say you were old at 40, 45 years old. Now you still can be pretty damn good. So I think you got to kind of push that over 50. You know, I think half a century can give you enough to say, hey, I'm a master now. I think anything on the other side of that Mendoza line, you can still go open.
Yeah,
Sean Roden won the Olympia at 43. So
exactly.
Sure.
Yep.
Make it easily over 50.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. I think he would have won it again if he was able to come back.
I do too.
Yeah,
That's
so do I.
Mhm.
I think he would beat Rami.
Yeah.
So do I.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brandon
I
Curry
was
looks
hoping,
good.
I was kind of hoping he would put bodybuilding back on more of that aesthetic look,
Mhm.
but then unfortunately he was never allowed to compete again.
Wow.
No, because Brandon just couldn't keep it going, and then Rami, obviously you see what happened. He kind of took off with it,
Yeah.
so he'll probably hold it for a little while.
Speaking on Brandon was leading into the Arnold is looking pretty. I've seen some of his update pictures. He's looking
Yeah.
pretty dang good, man.
Mhm.
I saw that
he'll-
too.
He'll definitely win the Arnold Classic. No
Yeah.
doubt.
We all know that what you look like on social media several weeks before and what you look like on stage are always two different things.
True.
So I mean, but he's definitely got to be the forerunner. He's looking really good.
But
Yeah, he looked
he
fantastic at the Olympia last year. So
Yeah.
he usually peaks very well at each show. I've never seen him really off the last
No, Brandon usually
4 or
his
5 years. Yeah.
his progress pictures are usually pretty accurate.
Yeah,
Sure.
since
Yeah.
he's been with the Oxygen crew over there, he's been coming in pretty solid. So
Mhm.
yeah,
he's looking like he's made some improvement on his wheels too. So
Mhm.
if he can do that, I mean, he's gonna be pretty dangerous. So from the front,
Yeah.
Because the body was solid. I think his
Yeah.
leg, like you said, his legs were his weak point.
Yeah.
primarily in the hams. If he can bring those hams and the quads up, I mean, he's gonna be.
Yeah.
He can threaten Rami again.
Now, how old a guy is he now?
he's in his 40s.
He's gonna be in his
Brandon
40s, right?
Okay, he's over 40.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I interviewed him last year at the Olympia, and he said he was working with the new coach last year at that Oxygen crew,
Mhm.
and he said the guy was really good. And he said that's why he was so improved, and he went more more for the bigger look. The year before that, when Rami won the first time, he was more like his normal look, more harder,
Mhm.
but he knew he needed to get bigger for the next year, and he was much bigger, and he really pushed Rami at that prejudging. So I think he's going to win the Arnold.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to be definitely the forerunner going in. Speaking of that, you got a top 3, John?
Well, I'll tell you, I saw Brett Wilkins today, a picture of him, and man, I think he's going to be in the top 3.
He's my dark horse by far, man. I was so impressed with him last year. What was that? Was it Chicago that he did?
Mhm.
Was it Chicago that he got 3rd?
Yeah.
No, man, he's looked like he's made some crazy
Way
improvements
better
since
now.
then,
Yeah,
so,
way
I mean,
bigger.
So
Yeah, that hands on hip most muscular kind of reminded me of Gaspari from '85, but a lot bigger.
yeah, he's looking crazy. So I
The
mean,
same grainy hardness and the vascularity and stuff,
I have him as my dark horse.
Yeah,
What about Kukla?
maybe. Yeah, I think Bonac it could be up there. People are kind of writing him off already, but
Yeah,
I think he could surprise some people. He's a former Arnold Classic winner.
Sure. Yeah, he's second in the Olympia one time, I believe, to Brandon, right? The year Brandon won. Yeah, I heard he had an injury. I don't know how true that is, but if he comes in 100% shape,
Yeah.
it's first and second probably.
Yep.
it's gonna be good.
The last time Brandon won it was really close between him and Bonac.
Yeah, it could have been either way.
Mhm.
Right. I agree with that.
It'll be a good Arnold. I'm kind of stoked to check it out. Hopefully
Yeah.
online streaming. So
Yeah. Are you going to it, John? Or
Yeah, I'll be there.
okay,
Nice.
nice. Yeah, I don't think any of us is going.
No?
Nah, I don't think so.
last time I went to the Arnold, I got hypothermia. So I'm a Florida boy. I'm staying down here.
I don't know what's been going on here with this frigid Arctic weather we've had for the past.
Oh man, it's crazy.
Miserable.
Really? Ah,
I can't do it. Yeah, those damn 50s and 40s will get you. It's eating me up, man. I'm dying over here in Daytona Beach. It's killing me.
Well, you
Wow.
know when the iguanas start falling out of the trees, that's not good. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
boy.
not good.
South Florida.
Hey, Doc, I wanted to ask you,
What's
we
up?
were talking on my podcast about the drugs and stuff, how the bodybuilders are staying on the drugs all the time.
Yes.
Do you think that's a big problem, a big part of why a lot of these guys are dying?
Yes, because you're never giving yourself a rest. Now,
Yeah.
again, when you started the whole process, most of them, you need, when I get my athletes off, now they're going to be on some type of cruise of testosterone because they're going to need the replacement therapy. You know what I'm saying? And just, you know, again, shooting, being transparent. Most of my guys, I keep them on for about 10 weeks. Then I'll pull them off for about 4 weeks. But when I do it, I don't buy all into this big PCT therapy. I really go in physiologically. We detoxify the liver, detoxify the GI system, reset receptors truly, not by getting off and resetting. Like I have a specific protocol using peptides and different type of nutraceuticals to reset receptors, to increase receptor signaling, you know. And then we do that, give it a good 4 weeks, recheck everything, and then set them loose for that. So basically 10 weeks on, 4 weeks off, 10 weeks on, 4 weeks off, which gives them enough time to clean themselves out, still train really good. Everything should be staying right on point, and then you use it this way. But staying on over and over, and then too, using the same drugs over and over. And I can't tell you how many patients I get here. I'm on trend. You're still on trend. You've been on trend since, Jesus Christ, since, you know, last September. Can you come off the trend? Stop taking it. You know what I'm saying? Because it just is more and more. I mean, you know, again, if you're going to do this stuff right, then there's plenty of drugs out there. Mix and match them. Let's see what the blood work does. If it does good, you put it into the mix. This way you shouldn't have to retouch that drug or peptide or anything that we do more than once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you end up being really safe in that regard. But it's just like I said, it's fifth gear, never come off.
Yeah. And then with the Olympia this year being in December, and then you got the Arnold in, you know, March. So if guys are doing both of those shows, I mean, are they staying on the whole year?
You don't have much, you know, because you've already prepped the December going into March, you know,
Right.
like you said. You really, and if you've done well and that's your next show, you may have about a 4 to 6 week period to maybe chill a little bit. But you don't have a lot. You got to get your, you know, you're going kind of back into it. You got to correct your mistakes, get going to get peaked at the end of the year. So there now you look, what, 16, 17 months on.
Yeah. Now, what would happen if they went off for like 6 months? Would they lose like 50 pounds or something? Would they lose an unbelievable amount of size?
You know, I think it has a lot to do with the athlete training wise, though, too. I mean, I can just, from my experience back when you know, on or off, there wasn't a huge difference. I mean, I could tell from a strength, but I didn't go fluctuate. I think what happens, and your point, what you're making, I still think this young generation utilizes the steroids to get the result. Mm-hmm. They don't use what they have inside. If I can make sense of this, maximize the drug. Don't allow the drug to maximize you. Meaning, I want to get 230 pounds. Well, don't take more anadrol and more testosterone to get to 230. Take the dose that you can take, maximize your body's physiology and biochemistry to get to that point, and then stepwise up. I think our athletes now are too dependent on the drugs relative to, you know, maximizing their use. Use low doses, maximize potential. But nowadays, again, we're all around the same group, maybe a little bit older, you know, we're all in the same genre where it was bust our ass and train. I don't see a lot of athletes really busting ass training anymore.
Right.
What can I use to make this easier on me? You follow me?
Yeah.
But again, you lose the 50 pounds, and to my opinion, you used the drugs, you did everything to get to that point. And once I took them away from you, you lost everything. To me, it just shows me you don't have, in my opinion, you didn't have enough heart behind it. You know?
Yeah. That's a good point.
You know, for me, like I said, when I used, it was, like I said, a lot of it, you know, this guys, they work because they help with recovery. They don't make you, they make you better because they allow you to perform more and more. And if you do anything in life, repeated amount of times, you ought to become good at it or more proficient at it. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, like I said, with Barry Bonds, it didn't make him hit a baseball any faster or better. It just made him, it went farther. It didn't make his eyesight better. Same with the athletes. You're you know, you guys know this. You can look at a person and say, when they like, hey, I want to be pro. You look at them in 5 minutes, like, you're never going to be pro. I can look at your genetic. I can tell you right now, you're not going to be. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, but what they want to do, they want to listen to that. They want to just use the drugs. So then what happens, you get these guys that are not, I think McCarver looked outstanding, but you get these guys who are 300 something pounds, but you know damn well they look like shit.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, so.
Yeah, I just did a podcast, my Bodybuilding Legends podcast. We were reviewing the year 1991, and we were talking about the 1991 Olympia, where Lee Haney broke the record, and he won it 8 times. And we were discussing, you know, do you think anyone will win it more than 8 times, like 10 times. And me and Jerry Branham, who was my guest, we both came to the conclusion, we think these guys are doing so much stuff. I don't think they're going to last 10 times. You know, they're going to burn out before they ever get to 10 wins.
100%.
Absolutely.
Because you had to spend time getting, it's not like, you know, you're hitting that 10 years after probably a good 10 years of getting ready.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
know, like by the time you win, you know, you're deep into this game. You didn't come out as a baby. I'm just saying at 23 and say, hey, I won my first Olympia at 22, 23. Now you're 30 something years in, you know, you're 30 years old when you win it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, I think you're right. You know, I do not assume that anybody's going to win it more than 8 times. I think that's, you know,
I agree.
I mean, we were just talking about Nasser, and we said, you know, he was really good between these years. It was only about 5 or 6 years, and then after that, he started to go down.
and it exponentially, but like you're saying, it exponentially goes down. It's not like a steady, like, hey, second, third, or, you know, second, third,
he
fifth.
dropped
It's
significantly.
like
Yeah.
second,
Year.
out of top 5, out of top 10. Now I'm not even in the 15.
Right. 14.
You know, like,
Right.
You know, within a 4-year period, you went from here to everyone's like, you should have stopped 2 years ago.
That's crazy.
And I'm sure it wasn't because he wasn't taking enough. It's just his body wasn't using it.
Well,
anymore.
again, it just you know, I do a pretty good job here in Daytona with some anti-aging stuff, using medications and different things, but you still can't beat Father Time.
Right.
It's never going to happen, you know.
No,
Skill
never.
set just, unfortunately, it just deteriораtes, and your body doesn't look the same as what it did 5. You know, and again, it's sad because you guys know this as you get older. Like, geez, man, this, you know, it's terrible.
I know.
Yeah. Do twice as much work to get half the amount of results. Like,
Exactly.
terrible.
Exactly.
How old was Lee when he won his first Olympia?
24.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
that's
24.
that's gonna just the idea of trying to think that somebody will win the Olympia at 24 nowadays is kind of like
No.
it seems like an impossibility. So
Almost impossibility.
Has there
You know,
been
it's interesting, Ryan. I at the end of my podcast, sometimes I'll read an article from some of these old magazines, and I found this old 1983 magazine when Lee just won the Universe. And the lady that interviewed him was Doris Barrio, who was from Florida. She passed away a couple of years ago, but she was like, what they call her, Phil, like the godmother of bodybuilding or something, or women's bodybuilding. She was like one of
women's
the
bodybuilding. Yeah,
she was
Doris.
one of the first promoters of women's bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So she interviewed him, and she was asking him about steroids. And Lee Haney said that he was clean when he won the Teenage Mr. America. And he said his great genetics, he was like 216 as a teenager when he won Teenage America because he had these great genetics.
yeah.
But he said he realized at a certain point that he was going to have to take them. And he was talking about the first time he took an injection. He said it killed him to take the injection. It just like, it felt like part of him died. That's what he said. And he said he wishes it could just be all natural, but you know, it sounded like he was, he didn't want to take them. And he wishes that the sport was natural. And I'm pretty sure he didn't abuse them too much, you know, during his career.
So, no, I wouldn't
Well,
think so.
you know, look at those guys, though. I mean, like I said, at his biggest, he was, I'm just saying, competing wise, 249.
Yeah.
I think when he won, I mean, that nowadays, that's light.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? You look at those guys' physiques, you can tell that, yes, they've used the drugs, but it wasn't to the massive extremes by which they are
Right.
now, you know, and that, like you said, it is, you know, again, you know, in an ideal utopia, yeah, you'd want things to be natural. Do I look back and say, man, I wonder what I could, you know, maybe, but everybody was doing it. And like Ryan said, you know, I was young and could give 2 damns. I just wanted to be the best, and I got paid to do it. So if that's what I got to do, and I would justify whatever reason I had to. When everyone else does it, well, I guess I got to do it, which, you know, it's not a good reason, but it was good. It made sense to me, you know? And so again, you justify and you use it. But I respect that, what he said. It's like, this is what I love to do as a sport. I don't want to, but I want to do the sport. So I guess I have to succumb and do it. And you think about that, that's a real struggle, because, you know, his you know, Christian background, you know, really that's an internal struggle. And I 100% believe him in that. It's like, I love the sport, but I have to do this. And like you said, a part of me died because I know I stepped to the other side and had to do that, you know?
I can tell you back in the 80s when I was coming up, there was a fear of it. I mean, you did it, but you did the minimum, and when it was time to come off, you were happy to come off.
Yeah.
You didn't need it. I come off of it. That was it.
Yeah.
And then you'd wait for 3 or 4 months again and maybe do something. But I mean, it was at a low, very low minimum.
Yeah.
People were afraid of it back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it is now where it's just open and people talked about it. I have with friends like Samir, Ray Mincer, Mike Mincer. They never talked about it. Ali Mala, we've never talked about it.
Right.
You know, it never came up. So they didn't glamorize it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't
And that-
glamorized like it is now.
Yeah, and there you go. See, that's the point. Now, there's 9,000 YouTube channels. Now your
Yeah.
local
Social media
guy who
changed
works in the
everything.
barbecue store is also your local chemist. And that's what I'm saying. Whatever it sounds like, I think all of us back when you respected what you were doing, though. You understood that, hey, this is a foreign substance, and I better make sure, just like Phil said, be fearful of it and say, I got to make sure this is right, because something could go wrong. Now it's, who cares? Just give me more.
Yeah.
I hear, I get these athletes now, and with the stuff that they're on, I'm like, holy Jesus,
Well,
why are you taking all of this? What are you doing?
it's the more is better mentality.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the difference with the errors. I mean, like I said, several times in the past, that the training used to be what was glorified and glamorized in the magazines, and the training, the nutrition, and that was always priority.
Yeah, it was always about hard training. I mean, every time you pick up the magazines, you see these guys just killing themselves. And then all of us young guys who were reading the magazines, we would go to the gym and kill ourselves with the training because we knew that's what it took to get to be a pro,
Absolutely.
I would put in blood and guts before I would go to the gym.
Right.
When I first started, no, serious, we would watch, whatever body part we were training, we'd put it in there, and we're gonna duplicate. He's the best in the world at the time, so we're gonna duplicate this in the gym. So
Absolutely.
And we'd go on there and yell at each other a little bit.
A lot of the gyms back then were smaller, independently owned, hardcore gyms. And I remember when the first gym I went to, when I was a kid, I was a teenager, and everybody was training hard, and
that's it.
They weren't nice to me because I was some new kid at the gym. I mean, it was just like, you better train hard, kid, to fit in. Otherwise, you don't belong here,
Now they just sit on their phones.
Right.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, seriously, that's all they do. If you look across the gym now, everybody is on their phone.
That's true.
Well, the old man's bring. I told you guys. So Jason, we were talking about it. So I somehow, some way, I'll figure out what I need to do. But so I'm building my own private gym. It's invitation only. It's exclusive. It's no bullshit. It's my rules. If nobody shows up, I don't care, because I'll just sit there and smoke cigars and let the dogs run in it. I don't care. But it's legitimate. I want to bring everybody out because that's what it's not very big, but it's invitation. It's 100%. It's my way or get out. I didn't buy it for anybody. I bought it for me to train because I'm so busy at my office seeing patients I can't get out. And so, that's what I did. I built my own. Should be done in about a month. I got my own private gym, exclusive, invitation only. You can come and train, but if I don't like what you do, you're not training here. So
sounds like good old George. That's his mentality.
Nice. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, that's all I have for this fine evening.
Well,
we went over a lot of stuff. Doc, again, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yep. John, thanks for filling in.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. How many you had episode 199 on there? You've already passed 200 on your episode?
Oh yeah. We're way past 200.
Yeah. Where are you at now as far as numbers?
Probably 220, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, really? Really good.
Yeah. Then this podcast has been going for about 4.5 years.
Yeah. I think we're close to 100, aren't we, Ryan? We're getting pretty close.
Yeah,
because
so.
Dorian was our 50th.
Holy shit! Wow.
Cool.
So we got to figure out who's going to be the 100th. And start reaching out.
Yeah.
I have to contact Linda Murray. She's my contact person. Yeah. She hooked us up with Dorian.
Wow.
So,
Cool.
all right. Well, cool.
All right, gentlemen.
All right.
All right,
Thank you so
guys.
much. We'll talk to you next time.
All right,
Thanks,
gentlemen. Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
guys.
Great, thanks.